right, babies. It's that time again. Oh, yeah. We jumped into Job 34. And not a lot to report on there, I don't think. Sometimes I say that, and then the Spirit will be like, allow me to take over. Which is the way I try to position myself all day long. How about you? Oh, yeah. That's a good one, right? All right, so there's a nice little verse in there where there's a reference to something like what Jesus used to say, for those who have ears to hear, let him hear, kind of a thing. And the reason I'm like focusing in on that is because I've been watching this guy on YouTube. His name is Brandon. He's a former Christian, and he's trying to talk some sense into Christians. Which, you know, is I respect him for, and he does a great job. He does a great job of that. He really does. So I'm trying to help him with his giving up his faith and his relationship with Jesus. It shouldn't be because the Bible's full of errors. So that's an aside. But anyway, I've been watching him, and one of the things he was criticizing, I thought, appropriately for, and I think most of what he says is very accurate and useful. Not useful for giving up your faith, but useful for remaining objective and using all of your faculties. And he was making fun of this guy named Vlad, who was trying to teach people about the dangers of trusting your emotions as opposed to either the Bible or the Spirit of God. And one of the things that struck me where I didn't agree with Brandon was he was acting as if the difficulty in hearing God is a sign that God doesn't exist. He gets into it with more detail, but that's pretty much what he's saying. And I look at it in a different way, which is God wants it to be difficult to hear him so that it's a sign of love that we do what it takes in order to hear him. Need to change lanes here. La 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 la. People aren't gonna let me because they're rude. Thank you, losers. Little road rage there for you. Yeah, so, because, and I've heard other atheists say, you know, what he says, which it just doesn't make any sense to me. But to them, it's like so logical. It's like, okay, well, this is just another reason why God doesn't exist. It's like, if God existed and he wants you to know what he's all about, then he would make it crystal clear why. Based on what? Why is that axiomatic? It's not. I look at it like, beauty, like look at it as like a painting, right? The painter doesn't just, slap a little this on, slap a little of that on, and like, hey, look at this, it's beautiful, and it's a masterpiece. Some people might think so, but most people who know about painting know that it takes a little studying and skill, blending of content, texture, and style, and strategy, and all kinds of things. To me, it's no different in what we do as Christians. How we are called to be co-creators with God. That's where the big problem is, and that's where people really miss the boat here. The world isn't evil because God doesn't exist. The world is full of evil because humanity just doesn't give a crap for the most part. If there's an opportunity for exploitation, people are going to jump on it. If there's an opportunity to make some money, people will do whatever it takes to make that money. What does that have to do with the existence of God? So I'm saying all this because in Job, I don't have the right verse, or the right wording, but it's just about the importance of hearing. And if we take the time to learn to hear, then we'll be good because we've prioritized what it is we want to hear. And God will bless that not because he's an egomaniac, but because that's the right posture to maintain and sustain, is that all wisdom comes from our alignment with the source of all good things. So that's not a bad thing. That's not a sign that God doesn't exist. That's a sign that God does exist. That we learn to fine-tune our abilities so that under no uncertain terms, we have evidence of him operating through us. That's what he wants, so that people can see the evidence of God and want the same. It's that simple, babies. So it's like, and this is what I love about God, because there's always a paradox, right? There's always a paradox when it comes to God. I mean, very few things are black and white. I suppose you could say, yeah, murder is wrong. Where's the paradox in that? Okay, you got me. But a lot of the things that are worth learning and discovering and are nuanced are that way for a reason. They're multi-layered. They're not easy to grasp. They reflect the depth of who God is and the multi-layered aspect of his will, his personality, his essence. And so for us to be aligned with that, when we've been patterned all of our life to line up with something categorical, yeah, that's going to take some work, baby. And it's going to take some fine-tuned hearing to be able to hear the voice of God. And that's why I agree with Brandon on his channel, that the Bible is full of all kinds of contradictions and problems that don't align with that beauty and that majesty and that wisdom that God embodies. I can't think of the guy's, what the name of his show is. I'll be talking more about him because he's really good. In fact, that's one of the things I said. Like, quite often I'll agree with atheists more than I will Christians. Why? Because Christians are worshiping the Bible and coming up with a false idea of God. And the criticisms atheists often have of Christians and the Bible, to me, are the necessary aspects of the road to full illumination. And it's not to reject God, but to embrace God's paradoxical essence. Oh yeah, baby.